Willie D Live.
It's Willie D, y'all, back with another episode of information and instructions to help you navigate through this wild, crazy, beautiful world. In the studio, Congressman Al Green. Hey, King.
How you doing, dear brother? It's good to be with you.
Man, I'm glad to see you, man. I thought Trump was going to have you in jail, man. I thought you were
Well, they haven't caught up with me yet, but they're hot on my heels.
Yeah, man. Yeah, you've been really active the last several months. You've really been active. What's going on?
Well, I've been active before, but we've had some circumstances.
There's an uptick in the last few months.
That necessitated that I do more. This president, as you know, has decided that he would get 5 more congressional seats from Texas. And why he picked on Texas is a mystery to many, but some think that it's because I'm in Texas and because my district happens to be one of the 5 that he'd like to move over to the Republican column. I'm a Democrat, so he would move over to the Republican side. And in doing this, he has selected congressional seats that are majority, minority, all 4 of the ones that he has named. And then, of course, there are others that he's looking at. So it requires us to respond, and we have to be bold with our response. This is no time to be timid with words. This is a racist act, and we have to say it. We've arrived at a point in this country now where people are reluctant to identify racism for what it is. They believe that you can use kinder words, but I don't think we can. I think that if it is racist and you don't say it's racist, then what you do is allow the racism to continue. We have to fight it. And so I find myself a part of the fight where I should be.
What are the legal procedural tools that can be, applied to fight these maps?
Well, we can do what I've been doing since I've been in Congress almost. I've been in litigation. I have spent a huge sum of money. Pardon me for using the personal pronoun I. My mother taught me to always say we, but this is one of those times when I have to. I've spent a lot of money trying to defend the 9th and the 18th congressional districts. When the Honorable Sheila Jackson Lee was with us, she and I were partners in the defense of these 2 districts. And this is just the latest episode. So litigation is something that we can do, and we're doing that. We can also do protestation. I believe that what got us here is going to be what will keep us here and advance us. And it was protestation. It was John Lewis at the Edmund Pettus Bridge on Bloody Sunday. It was Dr. Martin Luther King at the mall. It was the Rosa Parks on the bus. These are the things that have given me the opportunity to do what I do. And I cannot allow us to lose these things because I or some of my ilk in politics refuse to do these things. We have to be willing to litigate. We have to be willing to negotiate, but we can never give up the necessity to protest.
But how do we get here again? Because this happened in 2003, right? And the Democrats fled to, I think it was it Oklahoma?
Yes.
Okay. And so the Republicans say, hey, man, well, y'all get on back over here and do your job, or else, we're going to lock you up. First and foremost, I'm a little confused about the Republicans' authority to do that to elected officials. What does the law say?
Well, in the state of Texas, they have passed a law that allows them to collect a fine of $500 for every day that you are away intentionally away to prevent the government from functioning. That's the way they would put it. I would say that you are away pursuant to the Constitution to prevent some sort of insidious behavior from taking place. But because they have this law, each person that's away now faces a $500 a day fine, and state legislators only make $600 a month. $600 a month salary, $500 a day fine. And they've tried to construct this law such that you can't get any assistance from anyone else to help you with that fine of $500 a day. This is the kind of behavior that you use when you are afraid that you're going to lose, and you need to force people who don't want to participate in their own demise, force them to participate in their own demise. Nobody should participate in your own demise. I mean, you go kicking and screaming if somebody's trying to harm you. Well, this is an attempt to harm, and that's what they're doing by leaving. And they do accomplish something by leaving. They heighten the awareness. There are people in California who might not know about this, but for the way they are behaving by protesting and leaving and staying away until the end of this 30-day session. The governor can call sessions of 30 days. They call them specials. So they can stay away. And this then brings it to the attention of people across the globe, and this country especially, which means that it can help us, hopefully, at the next election, because this is an injustice. And we want people to believe that an injustice can be corrected either now or on election day when some of these folk are going to be on the ballot.
But can you stop them from adding the seats? Can the Democrats stop the Republicans from adding those seats, those additional seats?
I actually believe that we can with the litigation. But here's the problem with the litigation.
The deck is stacked.
Well, the deck is stacked.
With Trump appointees.
With Trump appointees, that's one problem. But here's another. Let's assume you do win. It will be more than 2 years later. I am now litigating what happened some 3 years ago in court. So it'll be after Trump has used this, because you see the maps that they draw will be in effect until they're overturned by the court. So 2 years later, it doesn't really matter for the people who are going to suffer now, the lines that will be drawn such that we will lose our seats now. So we have to fight it now, fight it in court. Even though we win 2 years later, we still can win. I believe we can win these lawsuits because it is invidious discrimination. They introduced race into this when they sent a letter from the Attorney General of the United States to the Texas Attorney General and to the governor. And in that letter, they indicate that racial gerrymandering took place for the seats that we currently hold. They're in essence saying that you were drawing these lines to make sure Black people got seats. And the state of Texas has refuted that and said, no, we didn't. We didn't do that, because they know that if they say yes, the law is on our side. Section 2 of the Voting Rights Act does not allow you to discriminate against minorities to develop these seats. Well, they're saying now, well, we didn't really mean it when we said that there was racial gerrymandering. We caught them, so they're saying, we're doing this for political purposes. The Supreme Court has said that if it's political, if you're doing it for partisan purposes, that's legal now. That hasn't always been the case, but that is legal now in the Fifth Circuit, which is where Texas is. So we have to fight it here. But I think that there's hope here. I don't want to conclude that it's hopeless. The end of this may be November when we vote on these elections in the state of Texas, and that would be November of next year. But, we have to fight to the end, and the end could be November.
So this is the Republicans' second time in 22 years pulling a move like this. If the Republicans are so successful at moving the goalpost, why don't the Democrats try it? How come the Democrats wouldn't fight to redistrict once they got the power, once the Democrats got the power? Why not fight fire with fire? I got it. The Democrats supposed to be the good guys. I got it. But if you're in a fight, man, the first law of nature is self-preservation.
That's right.
Why don't the Democrats do the same thing that the Republicans do?
That's an excellent question. I'm going to give you my perception, okay? There could be many others. And this is the perception of a liberated Democrat, unbought, unbossed, unafraid, censured, but not silenced. In California, for example, the Democratic Party has control of the state house and the gubernatorial position. So as a result, the Democrats, in order to be fair to themselves, decided that they would have a commission to draw these boundaries. And in doing that, they enshrine this in their constitution. So they can't just decide one day, okay, let's redistrict. They have to do it according to some guidelines that they've set for themselves. And I believe that they were doing it trying to be fair to each other because they're in control. Well, now that we need to do what Texas is doing, to have that equal and opposite reaction that you're talking about, now that we need to do that, they have to get their constitution amended so that they can do that. And that takes longer to get it done because the governor of California has said that this is what he wants to do, and he's put this in motion. Now, there are some states where they don't have that, but New York, for example, is another state that does have these barriers to doing it immediately.
Mhm.
Texas, on the other hand, they never put up any barriers. They decided we want to be able to do it mid-decade. Tom DeLay, who is a U.S. representative, Speaker of the House at one time, he started this mid-decade redistricting, and they have maintained the ability to do it. Not only mid-decade, they could do it 2 or 3 times in a decade if they choose. After they do it now, if next year they decide they want to do it again, they can do it again. That's just how wild west the Texas is. Still that place where, you draw down whenever you can and get the advantage that you can.
Well, if the Republicans have so much advantage, what is the incentive for people to vote Democrat?
Well, here's the incentive. The hope is, this is coming from me. My belief is that when we get power, we have to do exactly what they're doing. We have to use it. And the reason we are, and I'm saying we, although I think I can defend my position, but I'm going to say we. The reason we are not in favor right now is because when we had the House, the Senate, and the presidency, we didn't deliver. And let me give you the specific examples. I speak truthfully, dear brother, and even when it concerns me in the sense that I'm a Democrat, I still speak truthfully. We were supposed to pass George Floyd justice and policing. That was a big deal. Black Lives Matter movement was a part of that. I mean, we had a commitment to pass George Floyd justice and policing. We didn't. John Lewis Voting Rights Act. If we had passed it, what they're doing now could not be done. John Lewis would address this specific thing, not with specific language, but it would be in language such that you couldn't do what they're doing because you'd have to get these lines approved by the Justice Department. There would be all kinds of things that they'd have to do, but they don't have to do it. Raising the minimum wage, $7.25 an hour is a ridiculous wage. You can't expect anybody to take care of yourself with $7.25 an hour. And if you want to have a family, you surely can't do it with $7.25 an hour. And there are people who work full time at $7.25 an hour. So here's what happened. When we had the House, the Senate, and the presidency, we passed these bills in the House, but when they get to the Senate had 2 senators who were Democrats, but who would not join us so that we could have the majority needed to pass this legislation. That was Sinema and Manchin. Those two senators blocked the passage of the things that I just called to your attention, and other things too. And my position is we should have put maximum pressure on them. I have people who will say to me, we did put maximum pressure on them. But that's just the truth. That's what happened. And when you don't produce, you can't then say later on that we didn't win because African Americans didn't come out and vote in large numbers. Well, you kill the enthusiasm when you fail to deliver. People just don't continue. They say exactly what you just said. Why would we do this if you're not going to deliver? You didn't say deliver, but politics is about electing, selecting, and collecting. If you don't get to the collection, then why do you want me to keep going into the polls for the election part? My hope is that if we get that scenario again, we will do whatever is necessary within the law to make sure that we deliver.
Yeah. How did these school districts deliver this law to suspend homeless children and those who are at risk and those who come from unstable households? How in the hell did a law like that ever get passed in a so-called civilized society?
Shouldn't be there, but we have to remember that this same civilized society, not these people, but this civilized society enslaved people. This same civilized society, after slavery was declared unlawful in this country, they went to convict leasing. We have right down in Sugar Land, Texas, a common grave with 95 people in it, most of them of color. I think there may have been 1 or 2 that weren't. And they were convicts, persons who were leased. They had these black codes. They would charge you for being vagrant. Don't have a job? Okay, we got one for you. we're going to put you in jail, charge you for not having a job. You can't pay the fine. Now we'll lease you out to a plantation owner, and you go out there and for the rest of your life you work. So it's slavery by another name. After that, we had invidious discrimination in the form of segregation. Segregation was lawful racism. This is a country that had lawful racism. In my lifetime, I had to drink from a colored water fountain. I had to go to the back door to get my food. I had to go to a separate toilet. The restrooms were segregated. In my lifetime, I've experienced this. Sat in the back of the bus. It was lawful for you to remove me from the bus if I sat on the front seat of the bus. That's what happened to Rosa Parks. She went to jail for sitting beyond the barrier that they had set up for black people. So, yes, it's wrong, but we have to realize that the wrongs didn't just start with that. These wrongs have been there, and this is just the latest iteration of the wrongs. Remember, Texas had white primaries. Only white people could vote in the primary. And there was a dentist right here in Houston, Texas, named Lonnie Smith. He took that case all the way to the Supreme Court. Supreme Court said, Texas, you cannot have white primaries. Okay, but do you know what Texas did after that? Texas said, okay.
They moved the goalposts.
No, right. We're going to have a white pre-primary. So Texas then went into white pre-primary. So the Supreme Court had to say, no, Texas, if you can't have a white primary, you can't have a white pre-primary. So my point is, yes, it's wrong, but this is just the latest iteration of invidious discrimination. But to be more specific, it's a kind of a racist behavior that we have not removed from society, but that we don't talk about. We have to discuss racism. There is a movement in this country to eliminate anti-Semitism. And by the way, I'm a part of it. I don't want any anti-Semitism to exist. I'm going to fight it. We want to eliminate anti-Semitism, but we want to manage racism. Elimination means do what they're doing at Harvard. They've got Harvard on the ropes because they're saying that there were some anti-Semitic things that occurred there. When you want to manage something, you believe that the passage of time will cause it to sort of evaporate. Well, we know that that's not going to happen. So we continue to suffer from racism while we are in the business of trying to eliminate anti-Semitism.
You're absolutely right. When you consider what's going on with these schools and the way that they're dealing with the children, this is their answer. Suspending homeless children, suspending kids who come from unstable households is their answer to dealing with violence in schools and drugs in schools. So my question to you is, how much do you think that America, not just Texas, but how much do you think that America really care about its youth?
I think that America, on the whole, still has racism as a problem to deal with. And I'm saying racism because if you look at the numbers, you're going to find that most of these children are of color. That's what you're going to find. And America still has a problem with the races in this country. We have a president now who is doing everything that he can to roll back the clock as it relates to these issues associated with race. He has said that DEI is something that is being used to discriminate. He has indicated that being woke is somehow harming people, saying that you're woke, to be alert and aware of what's happening is somehow harmful. But this is what they do to us. When there's something that benefits us, Black Lives Matter benefited us, but they wanted us to say all lives matter. Well, we know all lives matter. We see what's happening with other lives, but it's the Black lives that we have to concern ourselves with because it's the Black lives that can get stopped for a traffic ticket and no longer exist. You get stopped for a traffic ticket. Why should a person lose his life if he gets caught speeding, if you stop him for speeding? Or if they decide, and when there's a traffic stop and they try to run away, do you shoot the person in the back and the only charge you have now is speeding and the person flees? So Black lives have to matter, and we have to say that so that people will understand that Black lives really do matter. So this is the country we live in, and whenever there's something that seems to benefit us, we tend to label it in a negative way. You might be old enough to remember, I think it was Tommy Smith at the games, I think it was in Mexico, when he held up his fist on the podium to say that, Black Power. Well, that was a way of saying Black Power.
Yeah, him and the other black guy.
Yeah, that's right.
That finished.
Carlos, I think
third.
was his name.
Second, yeah, they finished 1-2. Yeah,
Carlos.
Mm-hmm.
So when they did that, it was immediately denounced. It was immediately denounced. When we were saying, say it loud, I'm Black and I'm proud, immediately denounced. Why would we say we're Black and proud? We should be just proud to be Americans. Well, we have to say it because for so long we were forced to believe that we shouldn't be proud. We were forced to believe that we should scratch our heads when they weren't itching, that we should shuffle our feet, and we should never look a person in the eye when talking to him. I mean, these are things that we have had to come through, and America has not completely cleansed itself, and we have to be that cleansing agent. We have to say it and let people know that, no, we're not happy. No. Yes, I may have a nice car, but I'm not happy because I know that if I'm stopped in the wrong place at the wrong time, I could become a victim. So it's up to us to tell the truth about our condition. And that's what you're doing. With these questions, you are addressing the conditions. And we have to be honest about it and not try to find clever ways to justify the status quo. The status quo is bad for us.
Yeah. Yeah. I have a theory. So, this what they're doing with the youngsters in the school districts in Texas really bothers me, because I know, as you alluded to earlier, that they are targeting Black kids, because we always get it worse when they so-called start talking about tough on crime, and they start talking about we're going to suspend kids who come from unstable households. Let me tell you something, man. Damn near every household in America is unstable right now. Like, everywhere you go, people are mad, people are angry, people are fighting, divorce rate is out the roof all over the place. It doesn't matter what your socioeconomic status is. It's crazy out here. It is the wild, wild west out here. So you could theoretically suspend damn near every kid in school, but we know when you give them that type of power and you give them that type of discrepancy, they are going to disproportionately target our children. And so that's the part that angers me more than anything, because we've seen so many examples of people who cannot get past the color of your skin. People think that we wake up looking for racism. Like we like racism. Like we like, what the hell is racism? I ain't seen none today. You see some racism? I need some racism in my life. Like we look for this. We'd like to just live like regular folks that just get up and worry about going to work and worrying about if our kids are all right, and if we can pay the mortgage. If, we want regular issues, just the regular issues, like, dealing with a friend that may have stabbed you in the back, or a heartbreak or something. All of the regular stuff, But we got all of those problems and racism piled on top of it. So it really runs me hot when people play dumb and act like this is something, racism is somehow some type of figment of our imagination. It really runs me hot. And when I see people who are minding their own business, sitting on their own porch, and federal agents are walking up to them talking about, what are you doing? I'm talking about what's going on in D.C. right now with Trump sicking the National Guard on Washington, D.C. and taking over the police force. I mean, what do you think about that?
Well, I think about that what I thought about what happened in California, in Los Angeles, with Mayor Bass, who was a colleague of mine in Congress. The president is abusing his power. And when he has done it, I have brought articles of impeachment against him. I believe that every time he does it, we should say, here's another article of impeachment. Now, if it doesn't pass, the record will show that we fought you. People don't expect us to always win, but they do expect us to always fight. You got to fight. You can't roll over and just say, well, wait until we get back to house. No, you fight today when it's today's problem that you're confronted with.
Like they did.
Yes, yeah, that's exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly. And by the way, I've got to just pause for a second and say this. I'm going to be borrowing your quote now. I don't go out looking for racism. Okay, I don't wake up because I know they say that about me. I don't wake up in the morning looking for racism. You're right. I wake up wanting to go to work and pass legislation just like everybody else. But in the process, I've got to concern myself with what I call invidious discrimination, which is another way of saying racism. So yes, it makes me hot too. And in Washington, D.C., here's what I see happening there. The president is going to bring in all of these resources. Now, by the way, these resources can be of benefit, okay? He's going to bring in all these resources. If he really meant well, there's $1 billion that's supposed to go to Washington, D.C. that they can't get because the House of Representatives is holding that money up. They ought to let the $1 billion go in. We've got a mayor there that's capable, competent, and qualified. She can use that money to help lower the crime rate, even lower than it is. It is going down. They're lowering the crime rate in Washington, D.C. But here's what happens. They withhold funds. They don't give her enough money to do the job. And then they criticize the job not being done. And then they say, well, we can come in and do the job. But look at how he's doing it. He's bringing in 600 more National Guard troops. I mean, you bring in all of these resources and you're saying you couldn't do the job. You should have done the job. You got 35. He's been talking about 3,500 police officers. You got 3,500 police officers and you can't do the job. Well, if you see that, then give me some more resources and I'll do the job. But it's not just in Washington, D.C. This is what has happened to our universities. They've been underfunded. The schools in our communities are underfunded. When we elect people to office, they can't get the money into the areas that need it, and you see poverty. I don't see poverty when others see poverty. I see racism, because racism prevents us from dealing with the poverty. You can't get the money that you need to deal with the poverty. The way we deal with homelessness in this country is to criminalize it. We're going to put you in jail for being homeless now. At one time they were doing that. We're back to it again because the Supreme Court has now said that, if you provide a person with all of these various opportunities and they decline them, then you can lock them up again. So here we are back where we were some 15, 20 years ago. I say to you, dear brother, that this really is about America not having dealt with the question of race properly in this country, which is why I have legislation for what I call a Department of Reconciliation. I don't just look at this and do nothing. A Department of Reconciliation. By the way, it doesn't prevent us from getting reparations. I'm a real supporter of H.R. 40 for reparations. But it says that we would now have a Secretary of Reconciliation like we have a Secretary of Labor who reports directly to the president. And that person's job is to wake up every morning and say, how can I eliminate racism? What do I need to do? What do we need to recommend to Congress to eliminate racism and bigotry? And it exceeds the African-American community. It's beyond our community. What's happening to the Latino community? Every Latino is suspect now. I mean, when you can go up to people at a Home Depot and start questioning them simply because they're standing around waiting for work, that means that they're suspect. Just for standing around looking for work. You're supposed to have some kind of probable cause. You just don't walk up to me on the street and say, you look suspicious. Show me your papers. That's not a society we want to live in. So it really gets back to the race question, Department of Reconciliation. By the way, that's funded, and that funding attached to the Defense Department. For example, 10% of the Defense Department have the equivalent of that to go to this department. And it will always be funded because we're going to fund defense. So it will always be funded. But we need that, a Department of Reconciliation. And my hope is that we can then deal with reparations. I'm a firm believer in reparations. And for those who say they don't believe in it and, nobody should be giving you anything, nobody owes you anything. Well, 240 plus years of free labor for my ancestors, I think something is owed. Yeah. 240 years. You were born into slavery. You lived as a slave and you died as a slave. That happened for 240 years. People think that slavery was 20 or 30 years. It was centuries. And it was intended to be forever. We were brought here to be a permanent, subservient, identifiable, not class. Class is a socioeconomic circumstance. This is something more dastardly. It's a caste. We were brought here to be a part of a caste system. That's hereditary. Class, socioeconomic. Caste, hereditary. Meaning, because you're who you are, you will be in this caste for all of your life. That's why we were brought here. And to a certain extent, we still have some of the residue of that caste system that we have to deal with.
And therein lies the problem. When you start thinking about racism in this country and why is it so persistent, I can give you a direct beeline. I can make a beeline to Congress because, number one, slavery wouldn't have never existed if you didn't have congressmen and women who were benefiting from slavery, okay? And just like racism is so persistent right now, and the way that they're trying to roll back the clock on civil rights legislation and all of the advances that were made, by our ancestors and the people that came before us. These people, they don't want racism to be dealt with. They don't even want it managed. We ain't gonna talk about ending. They don't even want it managed because I ain't gonna say all of them, but many of them benefit. Many of those congressmen and women, you can trace their roots back to slavery. Their fathers, their great-great-great-great-grandparents and all of those, you can trace it all the way back to slavery. And that's why it's so hard to get anything done when you talk about reparations. Man, they can go in that room and stroke a check right now. Hell, we already $37 trillion in debt. Hell, what's another $5 trillion? What's another $10 trillion? You know what I'm saying? It's going to get there anyway. If we're going to get there, let's get there with some reparations. I'm cool. Look, I'm cool on bread, but I want it for my ancestors. I want it for those black people out there who don't have generational wealth, who's never had an opportunity to get ahead because their parents, didn't have anything from jumping. They've always just been scraping to survive. It's so many people out there that could use that hand up, and that ain't no handout. Remember, that's a debt owed. Our ancestors worked for that money. So that's our money. And so anybody who got a problem with us getting that money, first of all, your opinion don't even count because you ain't did nothing. You ain't got a dog in the fight. And I'm talking about everybody. Anybody that got a problem with it. And all you black folks who talking about y'all got a problem with it and don't want it, we're going to take your chair. Make sure when it happens, because I do believe reparations is going to happen. So make sure when it do happen that you pass that bread that you get on down to the next brother or sister who want the money, because I want it. I want every single nickel. I want all of it.
Well, you make an excellent point, and let me just add this to it. The people that we're talking about, the Africans who were enslaved, they were the economic foundational mothers and fathers of the country. They planted the seeds, they harvested the crops, they fed the nation. They had a hand in building the White House, a hand in building the Capitol. They were the people whose lives were sacrificed for more than 240 years to make America great. But for them, America would not be the world power it is today. So if you're in this country, regardless as to how you got here or why you're here, you're standing on their backs. America would not be what it is today if it had not had 240 years of sacrifice. And by the way, let's define that sacrifice. It was kidnapping, taking people from Africa. It was rape. It was murder. It was selling children away from their parents at the auction block. It was something that you don't overcome by simply saying you're
Get
no
free.
longer going to have slavery.
Correct.
I mean, it's not overcome that day. When General Gordon Granger went down to Galveston and read it, his General Order Number 3, in that General Order Number 3 was, go back to work for your master. Go back there and work. And by the way, don't come to this military base. That's in General Order Number 3.
Mm-hmm.
Don't come to the military base. Go back to work. I mean, what kind of circumstance does that put you in? The person who's had the whip, now you're going to go back and work for that person? I mean, you're so glad to get out of this bondage. I would want to get as far away from that person as I possibly can. Or, in another life, I might want to do something else. But, but the last thing I want to do is go back there. So the truth has to be told about what it was. And in Texas now, there's an effort to label slavery involuntary relocation. Involuntary relocation. I mean, what kind of mind does this? And just recently in Texas, a school that had the name Robert E. Lee on it, they removed it. And now the school board is putting it back.
Yeah.
Fort Bragg. Bragg was a horrible man. They took Fort Bragg, took his name off, and President Trump, in a very clever way, put Bragg back on, and here's how he says he did it. This is a different Bragg. They found another officer named Bragg, so he put his name on it. So we're supposed to think that it's not the Bragg that was a really horrible guy. But this is the world that we live in, but we have to talk about it just as you and I are now. And you're right, there are members of Congress who won't talk about it because if you want to keep your position, you can't say what I'm saying. Because if you do, Trump will draw you out of existence, which is what he has done to the district that I represent, the 9th Congressional District. They've drawn that and they've moved it over to another place where only a Republican could wear. So, when you speak truth, there are consequences. So you just got to be willing to suffer the consequences. These jobs are not given to us forever. You got to be willing to suffer the consequences. John Lewis was a personal friend. We went to jail together multiple times protesting. And John Lewis reminded me that when they were on the Edmund Pettus Bridge and they saw those officers as they were coming to the crest, they knew what their fate was. They knew, but they marched on. And because they marched on, I got to go to Congress. He knew what the consequences were going to be. The change we seek requires some consequences, and some people are going to suffer. I don't like saying that. But if you don't say that, you won't be telling the truth. So people suffered for us to get here, but now that we're comfortable, we don't want to suffer so that the next generation can have a greater benefit than we have, or even maintain the benefits we have, because we're losing these benefits. You said it earlier. They're taking away civil rights, and we got to fight it, and some of us may have to suffer.
Yeah, that's one thing. What's crazy is that I was just talking to a friend about that on the way here. And, we're so afraid of losing stuff. We get comfortable with stuff in this country. And we're so afraid of losing whatever stuff that we have that we ain't gonna do nothing, man. We don't even understand that. There's an old saying. I remember, I'm pretty sure you remember this, freedom got a shotgun. Remember that? Let me ask you something. How come Democrats are so afraid to swing a shotgun? Like the Republicans, they throw up their guns. They like they be what y'all want to do? Whatever. We got guns and we guns. Guns. Stay away. We'll tear it down. We'll do an insurrection. Whatever. The Republicans got that mentality like we gonna get it or we gonna take it. If the Republicans have a we gonna get it or we gonna take it mentality, and the Democrats have where when they go low, we go high mentality, how can the Democrats ever win? Like, how can they ever get ahead, really get ahead?
You're right. I've seen commercials where literally persons are campaigning with what appears to be an automatic Kalashnikov. AK-47 or some other automatic weapon. I've seen those commercials. And you're right, even in a metaphorical sense, this is what they do. Yes, this is what they do. I believe that you do have to fight fire with fire. And I think that you do that once you realize that the other side is doing it. Now, I hope that we realize that now, given what we've seen, given that we've seen when they wanted to get Gorsuch on the Supreme Court and they didn't have enough votes by using the normal rules, they went to what's called the nuclear option, which is not a big deal. They then decided that they would change the rules. So you're supposed to have 60 votes to get to what's called cloture, and then you can pass whatever it is with 51. They changed the rule and said, no, we'll just use 51. Okay? So I'm hoping that now that we have seen what is happening to us, when we had this opportunity as we had when we had the House Senate and the presidency, we will go to 51 votes and not conclude that we have to respect the Senate's long-standing tradition of getting 60 votes to pass something with 51. That doesn't benefit us. We really have to go on and do it. And I'm just hopeful. I'll be very honest with you. But I know that there are other things that are out there, and you've named a good many of them. But there's one more that we have to mention, and that's campaign contributions. Most of minority people don't get their campaign dollars from their community. And as a result, I'm not going to say you're just tied to the dollars, but if you're getting your dollars from other people, there's a good likelihood you're going to consider their opinions. And sometimes those opinions are antithetical to the best interests of the people that elect you. There's some people I'm not going to take money from. I don't care how much you give me. I wouldn't take it. AIPAC, for example. Yeah, are you familiar with AIPAC?
Absolutely.
Okay. I would not take a dime from AIPAC. AIPAC went after 2 members of Congress, both of whom were African Americans, and they took them down. It spent $25 million, the most ever spent on a congressional race, to take down a brother out of New York. $25 million. And then they went to Missouri and took out a sister with about $20 million. They never spent this kind of money, but they wanted to teach us a lesson for being independent. Cori Bush was the name of the sister in Missouri. So they wanted to teach her a lesson. She was a very independent-minded person. So they wanted to teach her a lesson. And when they did it, then they sent out one of these ads saying, support us because we're taking these people out of Congress. So it's money too. We can't overlook the role money plays in this.
So this past campaign cycle, you had past election cycle, you had the Texas, the Harris County Democratic Party, who did not offer support to a couple of sitting judges who were black female judges. They did not offer support when the Republicans came for them and tried to establish that these women were unqualified to sit. These are sitting judges, right? The Harris County Democratic Party did not have those sisters' backs. They did not fight for them. They did not say, oh, no, we're not having that. They did not offer assistance, financial assistance. And they didn't even offer us any type of moral support until they got called out. So my question is, are the Democrats, or at least do you think the Democrat Party, I won't say every Democrat because Democrats are individuals but that are part of a party, but do you think, like in just real opinion, do you think that the Democratic Party, at least, in Harris County, do you think that that party cares more about having somebody in those seats who are fair, impartial, righteous, or do you think they care more about control? Because, by the way, those Republicans who came after those two sisters they was going up against, they were white. And so for the Democrats to sit back and watch that happen, the Democratic Party to sit back and watch that happen, I thought that was really shysty.
The Democratic Party has a history that's worthy of mentioning now. when I mentioned to you that there were white primaries in Texas, that was the Democratic Party. So let's not believe somehow that the Democratic Party has had a track record of being fair. I don't. Sometimes when we talk about these things, we don't say what I just said, that was a Democratic Party. Texas was controlled by Democrats until maybe about 20 years ago now. I'm just guessing, so don't hold me to it. But everybody in Texas, if you want to hold office, you had to be a Democrat. But here's what happened. African Americans and Latinos started to win as Democrats. So they became Republicans. And they took all of the Democratic, thoughts that they had with them when they became Republicans. So we're still growing. You pick a scenario, and if it relates to people of color, you can see that it didn't just start with that scenario. It's something that we've been dealing with, and we're going to continue to have to deal with it. But there are some of us who are willing to do it, and I say to people, when you find somebody who's willing to do it, then you got to watch that person's back. You got to watch that person's back in a metaphorical sense, meaning I'm just going to kind of look out for you. But you also have to do it in a reality sense, in a real sense. The threats are unbelievable. I can't eat anywhere. I'm going to go to Luby's where I can say, give me that piece of meat and this piece of meat. I don't know who's in the kitchen. Some of these people who send me these threats, they may be in the kitchen. And when I say threats, I'm talking about threats about lynching and doing all kinds of things to me. And, it's just, when we're off the air, I'm going to play some of them for you so that you can get a sense of what I'm talking about, these threats. So, we who are willing to stand, who do this, there's a price that we pay in terms of how our lives are changed forever. I will never be able to just go any place that I want and take a seat. In a bar, for example, I don't go to bars. I never know who we might meet in a bar who's heard this. They'll hear what I'm saying here today and take issue with it in a bar. So, we have to watch the backs of those who are willing to take these bold positions.
Have you gotten more threats in your last 20 years as a congressman or when you was the president of the Houston chapter of the NAACP?
Since I've been in Congress, without question. Yeah, I was a judge for 25 years, and I didn't get. I had some hate mail and a few things, but nothing like I've had since I've been in Congress, and it all involves things that I say. And when you listen to these threats, you'll see that because they mention things that I do. For example, impeachment. There are people who just come unglued every time I file articles of impeachment. And I filed 4 times to impeach the president. We laid the foundation for the impeachments that succeeded. Now, history is not going to record that because history has a way of overlooking what Maxine Waters did in that same effort. She was out there pushing impeachment too, and we pushed it together. But history won't show that. History shows that when the mainstream politicians, I guess, the persons who are in keeping in good with the news media, when they decide to do it, then it's okay, and they'll record that. Unfortunately for people who laid a foundation, because people would say, well, you shouldn't have been laying the foundation. You should have waited on us. Well, if we waited on you, it might never have happened because we then engender within the people this desire to see it happen, and then you come along and take it over the finish line. But it didn't start with you. It started long before you got involved with it.
How did you start in politics? Like, I know you're from New Orleans,
sure,
but when did you get the bug to serve?
This is a true story. I was very young. I'm not sure. Maybe it was 3rd, 4th grade, somewhere in there. And my teacher at that time, I believe her name was Miss Graham, she decided that persons would run for various offices in the class. And for whatever reason, she decided I would run for president. I wasn't the only one. There were others that she decided would run for president. So I remember my theme was "Going Green." That was my campaign slogan. There was another kid in the class who had a campaign slogan.
Don't tell me it was Brown Go with Brown.
No, it was better than that. It was better than that. Free popsicles for all if I win.
Oh, so, you know how that went.
Yeah, as my recollection is, and I'm just saying this facetiously, I voted for him. Okay, but you know, I learned something, and I mean, even today, I remember that. I remember that because you know I'm out there fighting for justice, and he said free popsicles, and you know everybody wants free popsicles,
Right.
So we had free popsicles. Okay, but it starts there. It started there, and then you become class president. You become president of student body. You become, when I was in college, my freshman class, I was freshman class president. It starts young, and it just kind of stays with you. You adjust to it, and just as I've adjusted to the threats that I've told you about. I mean, you know, Dr. King reminded us that a person who hasn't found something worth dying for isn't fit to live. Now, people don't like to quote that because they like to quote, "Injustice anywhere is a threat to justice everywhere." But Dr. King was a radical person too. If you haven't found something worth dying for, you are not fit to live. That's a powerful statement. So, you know, you got to have something, you know, that drives you, that says, you know, I'm going to correct this. This is an injustice. That's what Dr. King instilled in me. I'm a student of Dr. King, not in the sense that he taught me directly, but in the sense that I've read his writings, and it has shaped me and influenced me. So that too is a part of why I do what I do. As it relates to Dr. King, I just want to share this one thing that separated him from all of his contemporaries. Here's what separated him. There were other intellectuals of his time. He was an intellectual, but there were others. There were other orators of his time, but he was a great orator. But the thing that separated him was courage. He had the courage to act on the knowledge that he possessed. Others had the knowledge, but they didn't have the courage to stand up. And I concluded in life that sometimes it's better to stand alone than not stand at all. On some issues, it is just better to stand alone than to have your record reflect that you never took a stand. Yeah. So we stand.
So Dr. King taught you indirectly. Who taught you directly?
Probably, well, a number of influences. I can give you another example of something that inspired me. I was at work with my father one day, and this is when I was a young child, and they were calling my father secretary, and I'd never heard him called secretary before. So I made an inquiry, why are they calling you secretary? And he said, he was very truthful. He said, they know that I can't read and I can't write. And they're making fun of me. You know, every boy wants to believe his father's Superman. So I said, well, you know, why would you let them do that? You know, he said, because I want you to be able to read and write. And I remember these things. And they do inspire me to not let another secretary exist. You know, I have that ability. But because of that secretary, I can stand in the well of the Congress and read an article of impeachment against the President of the United States of America. Thank God for the secretaries.
And your father, is he still alive?
No, he's not.
How old were you when he died?
I was a young man. Well, young because I've celebrated my 25th birthday 3 times now, and I'm 2 years into my 25th. But I was a young man then in my late 30s.
Yeah. And what type of I'm sure it had a profound effect on you, but when your pops passed, I'm sure, you know, who gave you so much information and instructions to navigate through this wild, crazy, beautiful world. How what did you take from his life and those life lessons, and to improve your own and make good choices for yourself and your family?
Well, one lesson is some of the people that we call Uncle Toms made it possible for us to have opportunities. My father would have probably been called Uncle Tom because he suffered these things. They told him to do something, he did it. But he did it for me. He wasn't doing it for them. He did it for me. So I learned that you have to be careful how you label people. You do. But also, he was a hard worker. He was one of those guys that came home and, his hands were greasy. And you could see the evidence of his having been to work, sweaty. And his great dream for me was not only be able to read and write, but he would always say, I want you to get a job where you don't have to work outside and you don't have to pick up anything heavy. I mean, that was his criteria because of his experience.
So he died when you were 25. So he didn't get to see.
No, he did not get to see Congressman Al Green, or
the
Judge Al
Congressman,
Green. No, he didn't get to see any of that.
Yeah. So how often do you think of that though? Like, because I'm sure.
Well,
that had to be a big deal. Like for me, my mother and father got to see me on the stage, and so I don't have that. That missing piece where I'm like, I'm wondering what that would have been like. Because, when you're growing up, if you're a halfway decent kid, you want your parents to be proud of you. You want them to see, what you become, right? And so, I got a chance to buy my mom a house before she died. My daddy lived with me before he died. So I got a chance to do a few things for my parents. But still, there are some things left unsaid. There's always things left unsaid. You wish you could have had certain conversations.
Right.
And, these conversations now, you have to try to kind of forgive yourself so that you can, you can move on. Was there any conversations left unsaid, or any one particular conversation left unsaid?
It would have pleased me greatly to be able to say, your hard work paid off.
Yeah. Man, I ain't finna cry, bro. I'm a hold on, hold on. Yeah, man. So, if I could have had that conversation with my mama, bro, because I'm gonna tell you, like, my mama was very aggressive with me and abusive, right? But I come from an era where you love your mama no matter what, Like Pac say, even though you was a crack fiend mama, you always was a black queen mama. That's the way I treated my mama. And so I still wanted my mama to be proud of me. And but at the same time, I didn't really care too much how she felt about what I did when I walked outside of the house, because I didn't feel loved. So I would just I was wild, and man, I was doing so much stuff, man. I didn't even realize like what she had to go through when she had to come up to the school and, talk to the principal or the teacher because I didn't beat somebody up or I was disruptive, not understanding that she barely is making ends meet right now, and I just cost her a day's pay. I wasn't on that level. I couldn't think like that.
Yeah.
I was only thinking about myself. And so no matter what she did, I kind of exacerbated the situation with my behavior. And if I could take that back, man.
Well, brother, I'm gonna cry for you.
Yeah, bro.
Because
if I
I understand your feelings.
If I could have that conversation, if I could, apologize for that, whoo, man, I'd be all right. I'd be all right with that. What made you Did you play sports in school?
I did.
What'd you play?
Basketball, football, baseball.
What'd you play, forward or point guard?
I was guard in basketball.
Yeah.
Yeah. I wasn't point. I was just a guard.
Just to go.
Yeah, I wasn't the
You
best
was on
player
the
on the
team.
team. I
You
was
was
the
on the
best
team.
player, but I played. Yeah.
Yeah. Got the picture. You got the picture to prove it.
No, I have very
You
few
didn't save the
pictures
picture?
of me when I was younger. Very few.
Yeah.
In fact, I have very few childhood pictures. I have one picture from my childhood.
Yeah. Yeah. We're close to being in the same boat. I got two. I got one in Pampers, and I got one from high school. That's it. And the only reason why I got that because people got high school books, yearbooks. But now, why not stay in Louisiana? You're a Louisiana man. You're from Louisiana, and I know people that's from Louisiana are serious about Louisiana. So, well, and you came to Texas well before Katrina.
I did.
So what?
Oh,
So
yes.
what made you relocate to Texas and not stay in
I was born in Charity Hospital in New Orleans.
Okay.
Charity Hospital. That's for poor people. And my mother moved back to Florida to be with her mom. It was kind of customary in those days when a woman had a child that she would go home to mom and mom would assist. So when they never really came back. So I did not grow up in New Orleans. I grew up in Florida. And I left Florida to come to Texas to go to law school, which is another story. My life is full of these fortuitous circumstances. So I came here to go to law school and never left. But I did not grow up in Louisiana.
You're a proud graduate of Thurgood Marshall.
Yeah, yes, I am.
Yeah.
Yeah, I am. I'm proud for reasons, though, that other people are not proud.
Like what?
I didn't have a degree when I got into Thurgood. They took me without a degree. There was another school in the country that would have accepted me. So I owed debt.
Right. And how often do you go back and repay that debt?
Every chance I get when I'm there at every graduation. Well, I may have missed one or two. But I'm back there for the graduations and I've made contributions. It was a fortuitous circumstance. Serendipity has had a place in my life. I was just walking across the campus at Florida A&M University, minding everybody's business but my own. And a man named Cunningham intersected me. Our paths crossed. He was walking perpendicular to me. And he said, there's a man recruiting people to law school. Why don't you go over and talk to him? And I gave him every reason why I shouldn't talk to this man. But as a favor to him, because I respected him, I said, okay. That man's name was Jethro Curry. Jethro Curry saw something in me that I didn't see in myself. I was just there to accommodate Mr. Cunningham. And he offered me on a conversation, a Ford Foundation scholarship on a conversation, the opportunity to work for one of the professors in law school. That professor was a woman known as Sissy Farenthold. She was running for governor. That's how I got involved with Texas politics, because I was working for somebody.
Campaign.
Yeah, I was working. Well, I did whatever she told me to do.
Right.
Fortuitous circumstance. If you think about your life, you probably had some point where there was this intersection with somebody that made a difference in your life. And if you hadn't been there that night, you were, if you could have gone someplace else. But it was that night and that encounter that had an impact on your life. So Mr. Cunningham had that impact on my life. And that's how I got into Thurgood Marshall. Just on a conversation. So when people talk about qualifications, I know that, if people want you, they'll find a way to make you qualified. They do, if they want you.
Yeah. That person for me was Emmett Oliver. Miss Oliver, that was my homeroom teacher and at Forest Brook High School. And that woman saw something in me, man, that I really didn't see in myself. I came in her classroom day one cutting up, just being a class clown, just trying to draw some attention to myself. And she was like, you, come here. And brought me up to the front of the classroom. And then the next day she had me writing the daily objective on the chalkboard. Now, in my mind, up until that point, now I'm in the ninth grade, so up until that point, I've only seen the smart kids writing the daily objective on the board. You know, the good kids, the kids that good conduct, And so when she had me doing it, I felt a sense of pride. And with each stroke of that chalk, man, I was feeling smart. It's like, it's like, you're right. And then, she had me to take names when she would leave out the classroom. Now, I never had to write anybody's name down because, they knew not to cut up, So she really did a number on me. I didn't realize what she had done to me until I got out of school and I was able to reflect on it. And that woman probably saved my life, man, because although I was boxing at the time and that was an outlet for me, I was rapping at the time, that became an outlet. It was her belief in me that really turned me around, and it gave me something to be proud of, gave me somebody, an adult, to want to do good by.
That's right.
Because she was invested in me, I felt a debt of gratitude.
You wanted to make her proud of you.
I wanted to make her proud of me.
Yeah.
And, I remember after, we made the records and we went platinum and stuff. I came by the school with my drop top Maserati, pulled up in the front, and I was just coming to see Miss Oliver. Where's she at? Where is she? And I got to show, talk to her and have a conversation with her. And then later, I invited her to my house for a party and all this kind of stuff. But that woman, teachers matter, man.
They do.
That woman saved my life. Yeah. So I could never, ever, ever repay her for what she did. And that's why I know that there are good teachers out there, and we cannot throw the baby away with the bathwater. We can't do that because there are children out there who want to do better, and they are doing well. All the kids are not bad. We got to get off to some people in my generation and beyond. We have this propensity to talk down on the youth and bundle them all together like we sometimes get bundled all together, right? Like and treated like a monolith. We have to get off of that, man, and recognize that there are a lot of youngsters out here that are doing well. In fact, I would dare say most of our youngsters are doing well. It's that small percentages, like the small percentages of uncivilized mutts anywhere who make the bunch look bad, right? But most of these youngsters out there, I see too many. Look, you said you were just talking about how you go to the graduations and speak. Every damn year, you got thousands and thousands of kids all over the country just taking that march, and and many of them are going to march into greatness. Others are going to go on to do great, not so great as in terms of what we might staticize as being great or whatever, being some type of big mogul or artist or athlete or politician or something. But if you go out there, man, and you put your foot down every day, and you get up there and go get it, and you play by the rules, you're a productive citizen where you are paying your taxes, you raising your children to do the right thing and do right by people, man, that's success to me.
That's it.
That's success to me, man.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Dr. King said your subject and verb don't have to agree for you to be great.
Exactly.
Just serve.
Yeah.
Be of service.
Be of service.
Yeah.
Be of service.
And that can be to your family.
What's going on with the congressional Pakistan caucus that you're in? Are you still a member?
I'm a member of that caucus. I'm a member of several.
But specifically, I wanted to know, like, what's the connection with Pakistan? How come you're so impassioned about that?
Well, I have constituents that are Pakistani.
Okay.
I'm a member of the Asian Pacific Island Caucus because I have constituents that are Asian.
Mm-hmm.
I'm a member of the Black Caucus because I have constituents that are
Right.
Black. But as it relates to the Pakistanis specifically, we have similar beliefs about Gaza and Palestine. I believe in a two-state solution. I believe that what's happening there is genocide. And I say that. Most people can't bring themselves to say that for a multiplicity of reasons. Most that do not have anything to do with whether they believe it's genocide or not, but there are political reasons why you can't say it. But they have stood with the Palestinian people, and they have tried to do things to help them, the Palestinians, have a better life. This war that's going on there, what Prime Minister Netanyahu is doing is just unacceptable. He doesn't want peace. He wants all of Palestine. And the Pakistani community understands this, and they support freedom for Palestinians and a two-state solution. So, common beliefs about things can sometimes bring you closer to people.
Now you just made an unpopular statement, especially being a politician, to say something against Netanyahu. We see every day American politicians, if they can't come together on anything else, they do know how to have reach a bipartisan consensus on Israel. It seems like no matter what Israel does, support Israel, support Israel, Israel, no matter what, Israel, Republicans, Democrats. As a citizen who sometimes feel like a fly on the wall, why is it that America blindly supports Israel? What does Israel have on America that makes the politicians in America ride for them no matter what and ride against whoever Israel have a problem with?
Well, there's probably more than I know, but AIPAC, I mentioned AIPAC earlier. AIPAC will come after you if you say that it's genocide. They will spend millions to take you out of office. So there are people who understand this, and they believe that they can do a lot of good if they can stay in office. So they want to do the good, and so they don't do the things that can some no, not all. There are some who genuinely believe, I suppose, that what Prime Minister Netanyahu is doing is right. I don't. I think that it's genocide. I think that it's collective punishment. I think that what they're doing in terms of moving people is ethnic cleansing. It's all of these things. And I just refuse to tell my eyes that they are lying. I don't like saying to my eyes, you're lying. I kind of respect my eyes.
Yeah. During the George Zimmerman trial, you told the people to trust the process, for the judicial system, trust the process, let the courts do their job. What are your thoughts about, how that verdict turned out?
Well, I've never said trust the process. I'd like to see that tape where I said it.
Well, I'm not sure if you said,
Okay.
well, not verbatim, but said something along the lines of basically trust the process. You didn't say trust the word trust. I don't remember you saying exactly the word trust, but it was something along those lines.
Okay.
Like, let's respect the process or something like that. The judicial system, respecting the process of the judicial system and let the courts. But you did say let the courts do their job.
Well, let me just share this with you. I protested against that.
Right.
Yeah, I went down to Florida. I was there with Reverend Sharpton. So I'd just like to see that language because it may be something that's been confused. I've never supported what happened.
No, I
in
didn't.
AK.
I didn't say that you support it.
No, but I mean,
no. Maybe I misspoke the way I worded it. But it wasn't that. It wasn't that you were saying that you supported it. It was like, well, what you did support is uh, the people respecting the process, basically. Like, let's let the judicial system let it play out and let the courts do its job.
well, again, I think that's an invitation to have me back. Okay, so because I want to see that language out there. That was something that now in this sense, I would say to you, I think that when the courts make a bad decision, I think we can protest that decision, and I would protest it, but I would never do it violently. I'm one of those guys who believes in peaceful protests. And I believe in peaceful protests because I've seen the results of peaceful protests. When the protest gets violent, then the people who commit the violence get all of the attention and it takes away from the issue. So I'm a peaceful protester. There are others who are different with me, and I respect them and their opinions. But I've protested many times, and I've gone to jail for protesting. But I always was peaceful. I wouldn't obey the officers when they told me to do something. For example, John Lewis and I were in the street blocking the traffic, and the officers told us we had to move, and we refused to move. And I remember he said to me, "Don't resist. If they're going to arrest you, let them arrest you. Just be limp and don't resist." So I learned from him, and I'm a peaceful protester. I say to people, don't try to burn the courthouse down because you don't like the decision.
Yeah. I used to protest when I was a lot younger. I protested the Republican National Convention.
What year was that?
That was 92.
Was that, let's see,
92.
Jesse?
That's the one that when they came to the Astrodome.
Okay.
92.
All right.
But I was out there with a casket and everything. I said, you vote for this dude, you pretty much signing your death certificate. But I protested throughout the years, and one day I just stopped. I boycott, but I refuse to put my body out on the line. And here's why. When you protest in America, law enforcement is always on the side of the system. They're always going to be on the side of the system. They're always going to be on the side of the Ku Klux Klan. So if I go out in the streets and I start pumping my fist, waving a sign, if I'm just a bystander and I'm just looking on, I'm subjecting myself to whatever attacks that these people deem necessary to get me out of their face. They can do whatever they want to do and ain't nobody going to jail. They can do whatever they want to do to me and nobody's going to jail. But if I do something to them, I'm going to jail, or I might even go to the morgue. So I don't, and so I don't like the odds where I'm going out here and I'm putting my body out there and I'm in the streets, and these people are out there, with their batons and their gas and their guns, and all I got is, my mouth, my hands, and my feet. I'm gonna tell you, if they swing on me, bro, I'm swinging back for real. You ain't hitting me with no rock and get away with it. You ain't hitting me with no baton. You ain't sticking no dogs on me. None of that, and getting away with none of that. This ain't the 60s. And I respect our warriors, our soldiers, all, including yourself, personal salute, for everybody that put the work in and made the sacrifices for me to even be able to sit here and say what I'm saying. But excuse my French and pardon my vernacular, they put their hands on me, I'm going to get dead on their ass. That's the mentality I got. And so I know that if I do that, I'm going to jail. So I think it's, there's more than one way to protest, I think for young people who want to do that, sometimes that's the easiest thing to do is just to go out into the streets, throw your fist up, put up a sign. But there's all types of ways to protest, and I respect them all. It's just that it's not something that I'm into doing anymore myself.
Well, let me make a couple of points.
Yeah.
I don't shop at Target. I do not. By the way, they have some things that I really would enjoy about it, but I don't. So that's a part of my protest. The second point is there probably would not have been a Martin without Malcolm.
Mm-hmm.
They in a sense, they kind of complement each other.
I know where you're going.
Yeah.
I know where you're going.
Okay.
I know where and that's important. Yeah. And you know what, man, I love that. That's important because we have to get used to being able to agree to disagree and understanding the long play. Like if we can all recognize that we're not a monolith, however, as long as we have the same objective.
That's right.
That's the most important thing.
That's right.
I can let it slide that you're passionate about this thing that I'm really not, or you're a strong advocate for this thing that that I totally disagree with. That's cool. The most important thing is, what is your objective? What is your end game?
That's right.
And that's what we got to get used to. And I think that more of us need to be able to get on the same page. But I think if we can get on the same page with that, man, we can work wonders. But too many of us think that we have to agree with everything this person does or everything that person does.
Right.
We think that this person, in order for us to work together, absolutely has to be a Democrat or a Black Democrat or a white this or what, you know what I'm saying? Like we're not. We don't have all the same ideas, and none of us have all the answers, right? So we put our collective minds together, and we come up with a solution that works for all of us. Maybe it may not even be the best solution, but it's the best one that we're working with.
That's right. I concur, and I'd say simply this: there's a role for everybody. Same objective, but different roles. Not everybody can say what I say. You got a family, you got a wife, you got children to take care of. I mean, you can't say what I say.
Right.
You could lose your job, and then your family loses that income. So I understand that. But then your role may be to make a campaign contribution. I mean, there's a way for us to complement each other. And I think that there's one thing, however, that I think, even if we don't, we should agree on, and that is our ancestors have to be respected. And people whose lives were sacrificed, they've got to be respected. So if a person doesn't agree with me on that, I'm not going to twist the arm, but I am going to say that people should understand that other ancestors are respected, and that gives them respect. My history has to be respected so that I can be respected. When you wipe all of that out, then I'm a nobody. Right. So I'm hoping that Slavery Remembrance Day, which is something that takes place in Houston, Texas. 1,000 people there and more trying to get in occurred on Saturday. And we're going to turn people away, because people now are realizing how important remembrance is of what happened to our ancestors. And if we can get all of us to move in that direction and say they must be respected, then we're going to see a change in this country as it relates to us. If you go into a bank right now with all of your credentials, a person who is white with fewer credentials can probably get a better interest rate, better terms on the loan than you can get.
Hell, I might not get the loan at all.
That's right. That's right. You're on top. And by the way, I was a chair with Maxine Waters was the chair of financial services, and I was the chair of oversight.
Shouts out to Maxine Waters. The great.
Yeah, she's look. I'm proud to serve under her leadership.
Mm-hmm.
We brought in the big banks and the big insurance companies. And we showed how they have a relationship to slavery through their predecessor institutions. But what we really uncovered was something called testing, where you send out 3 people, all of whom are equally qualified, but they don't all look alike. And you get different results in terms of what you can get in a loan as opposed to the person who looks different from you. That says it all, because people tell you to pull yourself up by your bootstraps, but they mean bank loans. They get loans. They're able to buy homes because they get loans. They're able to go into business because they get loans. I can't get the loan. I can't get into the business. But you will criticize me for not pulling myself up by bootstraps that I don't have. I don't even have boots. So, you learn these things in life, and you try to pass them on to other people so that they understand that the battle is not over. C.A. Tinley says, harder yet may be the fight. Right may often yield to might. Wickedness high may seem to reign, and Satan's cause may seem to gain. But there's a God that rules above, with a hand of power and a heart of love. And when I'm right, that God will help me fight. Now, I didn't mean to rhyme on your time.
See, that's what I'm saying, man. I was hearing you the whole time. I'm saying, there you go again. There you go again, man. This guy's out here, busting rhymes on my show, man, just showing me up.
You the man, brother.
Now my fans gonna be like, man, why you didn't get him back? You know what I'm saying? That sounds like a battle to me, OG.
Oh, no.
See, this is my OG. You see what I'm saying? This is my OG. So he got that right. He can get away with that.
Well, you're the best there, brother. I appreciate this interview. It's been very rewarding, and pardon my tears, but there's some things that are so near and dear to me that when I relive them, I can't help it.
Yeah.
But I appreciate the interview. I really appreciate the questions. These are the questions that we don't get to answer over the airwaves. Now, we talk about these things in quiet places, but we don't get to have this kind of discussion. I mean, this was a down-to-earth, where the rubber meets the road discussion. And we need to have more of these kinds of discussions so that people will know where the fight is. Because they may think the fight is over someplace else when it's really right here in our neighborhoods. We got to get our minds together. We got to, free your mind. The rest will follow.
The rest will follow. And now you can see why so many follow this man right here. The great Al Green. This is the guy, he don't sing. This is the rapper, Al Green.
Love and happiness. What a good times.
Oh, man.
Let's stay together.
Ladies and gentlemen, Congressman Al Green. No more talk. Yeah. That's it.